Before we talk about actually executing the mix, I want to talk about spacing for it. And you can actually be quite far away from the corner and still have S-Ghost beat frame 4. So here, the dummy's set to vanish, and I'm focusing quite a bit on buffering the super correctly, so as soon as I land, and I get a nice little conversion, and I'm able to beat my opponent's frame 4 option, which is our sort of gold standard for good Goki. So this is maybe running contrary to some things you heard when Goki got nerfed. People were saying you had to be really close, like 7JH spacing or bust, and that's not true, obviously. We've kind of realized that pretty quickly, but at the same time, worth noting that you have a lot of space to play with, because even though we hit the corner pretty easily with our kind of modern buffs, we still have spacings where we get, you know, maybe a random air-to-air like this, and just to be safe, we want to bring them down for grounded 214M. And then we're going to MH here just to be sure we don't follow our opponent too closely toward the corner, and I would be perfectly comfortable doing Goki from this distance, or this distance, or this distance, right? It gets tighter the farther you go out because ghosts have travel time, but this is all possible, and you can play with your spacing accordingly. So I won't try to space a correct example, but the only other thing I'll say about this type of setup for the spacing is that 8JH is certainly an option. You can see here if I jump straight up in JH, I stop my momentum, and I'm able to, by doing that, keep myself out of the corner. If I'm here when I do my air down heavy and I jump cancel straight up into heavy, I will not go too far to keep myself from doing the setup, right? Because if you're too close, you just can't do it, right? If all 4 of your ghosts meaty, then you have no setup. If H and S meaty, this is the sort of bar, if H and S both meaty, then your setup is not a true string anymore. You don't have enough block stun. If you do the normal thing, you have to radically alter your setup or leave a gap. Meaty S is fine, but meaty HS, not fine. Meaty all 4 ghosts, you're, you know, totally busted. So all that said, this is worth noting, 8JH, 9JH, depending on what spacing you need, keep it in mind. More often this patch, though, we're going to be ending in J214M, and I'll do the corner BNB that we do these days. This is the unscaled one. The scaled one looks slightly different. And I'm going to do the pushed ender, which is all the lights here, and then a short light hands, and a full medium hands. And what you can see here is that my heavy and my up back are simultaneous. Now, I'm going to show you the spacing for the ghost. You can see S is going to pop here. This leaves me quite close to my opponent, but that's okay. I know it bothers some people. I'm going to talk about that in a different video, but meeting with S is actually quite alright as far as the setup goes. In fact, I prefer it myself. But when you do this timing off of Air 214M and the combo is this pushed, right? So the spacing that you get from jump back heavy, like immediate jump back heavy is what I'm talking about here. You have to really focus on inputting the up back and the heavy together because you do not have very long to convert that 214M into a knockdown. It is quite tight. It is not literally simultaneous the way you can see in my inputs below what I just did, but it is quite close together. And if you want to make it easier or you want to generate some extra space, you can just do the same combo. All you do is shave something from the end. So let's say I'll do this. Everything's the same so far. I still get my jump medium beam here, but instead I'm just going to do 2 lights and a short light hands to get under them a little bit. And you can see I delayed my JH quite a bit there, which is displayed by the distance of my S ghost, right? It is quite far away. I get the kind of old 7JH spacing. I lose unscaled about 300 damage by doing that, but that's not a huge deal. It's okay. Maybe it's a little less too, and scaled it's going to be way less. So if you're more comfortable doing this, either because it spaces you farther, or because the timing is more lenient, go for it, right? This is absolutely fine. You can just convert any of the combos in the combo doc or the playlist into this ender by shaving that stuff at the end. And I don't know that the exact optimal shaving is, I'm just sort of winging it, but even so. The final way to get some extra lenience or space when you're ending with 214M is to actually use assist plus grounded 214M. Now, if you really want an optimal assisted combo, what you do is something more like this into an assist like that, right? And then you re-jump off of it. So this is going to get you more damage than a solo BNB. If you use assist plus 214M at the end of your combo, you're going to get about the same damage as the solo B&B. You're losing out on some of that assisted damage you could have, but you're going to make your ender much easier without having to sacrifice the damage that the shaved solo version does, if that's clear. That's sort of a mouthful to say. So I'm going to give you, I don't actually know where JH breaks here. Cinematic JH actually can connect and not knock down at a certain point. It's really easy to do with assists, so you want to lab this. But I'm just going to take a guess that I can do this, and that I can beam into 3 lights and an extra medium. I apologize, I was sort of thinking about whether that was going to break or not. Let's see, so I was going to do 3 lights, extra medium, bring them down, and now I can also delay my JH here for extra space. It's not quite as far as the other one, but it's still quite far, and S-Ghost isn't going to meaty. There's a weird irony here, which I won't try to show because I would not be able to do this like on commands, that fat characters are actually easier to space out of grounded 214M because you can delay the JH so much. Their hitbox is so, or hurtbox is so big. If you have somebody like GT on the other end of this combo, you actually end up a little closer to them because you have to JH sooner. So it's worth noting that there isn't a single delay JH timing out of 214M for every body type. You do have to tighten it a little bit for smaller characters. But because they're smaller, you can still get it so S-Ghost doesn't meaty. It's just you can't do the really, really delayed JH you could do on Majin Buu to keep S-Ghost from meeting on him, if that makes sense. And you actually can do that. And when you test it in the lab, when you test your timing, I won't try to show it here, but one more subtlety about that is that you actually want to have your opponent wake up reflect, because S-Ghost can meaty an opponent who's just standing here, as Goku is, but have the back end of reflect, after the first few active frames, have the back end of the reflect actually catch the S-Ghost, because at least some characters move forward, probably all of them, I'm not sure. But some characters will whiff the initial part of Reflect and then sort of move into the Ghost and will be able to auto-reflect the S. So if you're somebody who wants that extra space but also wants to bait Reflect with S-Ghost, right, you have to be aware that if you're too close, it can look like it's whiffing, but they can actually get a guaranteed Reflect if you stand there and do nothing. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to cover a lot of ground here, and I do know I talk a little fast. But with all that out of the way, I'm going to move to the actual mix itself, where I'll try to be a little more concise.